Welcome to Live with the Louhs with your hosts, Father Nicholas and Dr. Roxanne Lowe, where we will connect our Orthodox faith to day-to-day living and relationships to our family, our work, and our view of ourselves. Father Nicholas is the priest at St. John the Divine Greek Orthodox Church in Jacksonville, and Dr. Roxanne is a licensed clinical psychologist who uses her extensive training in private practice. Questions are welcome by calling 855-237-2346. That's 855-237-2346. Here now is Father Nicholas and Dr. Roxanne.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Live with the Louhs. My name is Father Nicholas Lowe, and I'm the parish priest at St. John the Divine Greek Orthodox Church right here in Jacksonville, Florida. And tonight I'm joined by my lovely wife and co-host, Dr. Roxanne Lowe.
Good evening, everyone. Happy to be with all of you.
And Roxanne is a clinical psychologist here in Jacksonville with a private practice here, and we're so excited that you've taken the time to be with us on this Tuesday, November 14th, just a day away before beginning the Advent fast. So thanks so much for being with us. And if you're new to Live with the Louhs, you should know that it is a show that merges both faith and psychology, really to kind of give you some practical principles that you can apply in your everyday walk of faith. So again, thanks so much for being with us. And before we start tonight's really exciting show, I do want to encourage all of you. We are on different platforms, whether it be on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, on YouTube. You can find us by going to the Louhs and simply putting the Louhs in every one of those search engines for every one of those social media platforms. That's how you can find us all throughout the week. In fact, all of our sermons, all of the interviews that we do, a lot of the retreats that we've given, you can find them by subscribing to the Louhs YouTube channel. So I strongly encourage you, if you do enjoy this show, please take a moment, maybe even during this show tonight, or whenever you're listening to this podcast, go ahead and go to the youtube.com and just simply put the Louhs and subscribe to our channel. We'd love to just kind of build up the number of subscribers there. Why? Because the way that the YouTube algorithm kind of works, the more people that are subscribing and the more views that you have, the more that it will actually bring it up to other people who may not even be Orthodox or may not even be in the Christian realm, but may have an issue or something that we're talking about in the show may be of importance to them. So that's how it helps us to kind of spread Christ's light. So definitely take advantage of that. And as we are approaching the holidays, I just want to remind you, if you're looking for a great gift, our book that we gave out, that we published a couple years ago, called Renewing You, a Priest, a Psychologist, and a Plan, is a great gift to give to people. And I say that because it really is timeless in the sense that we cover 8 of the biggest topics that we experienced a few years ago that are actually still the same right now. And we covered them from both a faith and psychological perspective. And I encourage you, for no other reason, check them out on Amazon, check the reviews out. It's a 5-star rated book. And all the proceeds from this book go to the American Cancer Society, at least part of them do, and the other half goes to the outreach ministries at St. John the Divine. So just know that this is a small way that you can actually make a difference during this holiday season, but also to get something that I think, and I hope and pray that will inspire you as well. So you can find the book either by going to our website at thelouhs.com or by going to store.ancientfaith.com/renewing you. We always want you to join the conversation. We totally believe in a dialogue, so definitely call us tonight if you have a question or a comment. You can call us at 1-855-237-2346. Again, it's 1-855-237-2346. So friends, let's get started. You know, we are quickly approaching the holiday season, and for a lot of us, although we could love the holiday season, it's kind of a special time of the year, if you will. For a lot of us, instead of it being the most wonderful time of the year, it can actually be some of the most stressful times of the year. We're navigating all the rush and the bustle of what it is to purchase, to putting up trees, to planning events that we're going to do for meals. Instead of Christmas being a joyful time of the year, for many of us, it can be really a very difficult time of the year. But what about those who have experienced a divorce or who are separated? How do they navigate the holiday season? What are the challenges with children interacting even more with their ex-spouse or even their family members? What are they going through? How are they experiencing it? How are they navigating the holiday season? We heard this recently from an emailer that said, "What an interesting topic to discuss. The holidays are not the same for me. At first, we were lucky to be invited by close friends Or I hosted and invited the close friends, and I cooked the same foods and followed the same traditions for the kids. We all put on a brave face. But after the kids moved away, I found myself traveling to whatever state they were to spend Thanksgiving with one or the other. Thankfully, both kids came home for Christmas for a few years. It was a wonderful reunion after a long time apart and a happy time. Now, though, it's getting hard to gather as a family for any of the holidays. Circumstances changed, and it will be a miracle if we gather as a family at all. Also, my kids are not religious anymore, so gathering for the holidays is not a priority for them. So I find myself having to spend Christmas alone this year without close family. This particular email just really touched my heart. So we thought we'd bring in our friends, people that are really not only because they've experienced this, but also just their level of just vulnerability and wisdom that they can shed some light on this topic that I think for many of us we may not be aware of how to navigate through the holidays when you've experienced a divorce or you are separated. Let me reintroduce you to them. First is Maria Harduvel Boyle. She's the ministry leader of St. Peter's and Paul Divorce Rebuilders in Glenview, Illinois, that offers support and guidance to those who are separated and divorced. I absolutely love Maria, by the way. I think all of you, when you hear her speak, if this is your first time, will truly love her wisdom as well. But for over a decade, Divorce Rebuilders has addressed the contemporary needs of Orthodox Christians by offering them a place to process the many aspects of the divorce experience through instruction, guidance, and support. She's a seasoned professional in counseling, educated at Northwestern University, and she has over 30 years of counseling experience in education. And also our dear friend and sister, Christina, who is with us. Christina is currently employed as a nursing assistant at Providence St. Patrick's Hospital in Missoula. I hope I'm still saying that correctly. After years of engaged field work in wilderness guiding, environmental education, trail stewardship, she managed an adventure travel company in Alaska and Conservation Corps program in Northwest Colorado. Most recently, Christina has been building community with the Wild Rockies Field Institute to offer college-accredited field-based courses. And I just want to thank both of you. I mean, I know you were on the show a few months ago, and earlier on this year, you were also on the show. Roxanne and I love having you on the show just for a number of reasons, and especially during this holiday season. So to you, Maria, and to Christina, welcome to Live with the Louhs.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for
Glad to be here.
So, Christina, tell us what makes the holidays so stressful once you've been separated or divorced. Tell us what that looks like and take us into that experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Father mentioned just the hectic schedule, the gatherings, the sort of poignancy that we feel around the holidays as well. There's all this hope and expectation, nostalgia wrapped up in the holidays, and it's why we love this time of year, and it's also what makes it so difficult. You have maybe small or large gatherings with family, updating the uncle you haven't seen in forever with whatever life updates you have. You have long-sung traditions, maybe those things that you did in the past, especially after a broken marriage, that no longer happen. And so how do you keep those traditions alive? Do you give new life to them? These are questions that are definitely happening after divorce. And also, of course, too, that, we are meant to feel joyous. There's an expectation of joy and exaltation. And I just, have been in that room before where really I had to muster the smile and the courage to be joyous. And I think all of those things we'll talk about throughout our conversation today, but certainly make this time of year really difficult and really hard.
I mean, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that too, Maria. I could really resonate with hearing that, Christina. I mean, just that there is such an expectation for joy and this sort of, projected experience, and how do you feel that when you're not in that space, and updating relatives. I mean, even things like that, like, is that, I mean, that
Like
must
life
feel,
updates.
life updates. I mean, how do you do that when the life updates aren't all, celebratory? I imagine that puts you in a difficult zone.
Yeah, and it's an expectation ultimately of intimacy, right? That our connections are going to, there is a little bit of a magnifying glass there, that our time is treasured, and that this intimacy and connection is that we're making memories, that we're making meaningful time together, and we have it, ideally, if we get off of work, that we have the time to make those memories.
You're listening to Live with the Louhs. We're speaking with Maria and Christina. We're on the topic of how do we navigate through the holiday season when we're divorced or when we've experienced a separation. I do encourage you, if you'd like to talk to both of them or have a question or comment, please don't hesitate. You can call us at 1-855-237-2346. That's 1-855-237-2346. Or feel free to email us a question at ask@ancientfaith.com. That's ask@ancientfaith.com. And we realize, friends, that we're talking, that this topic is very difficult. And if you'd like to remain anonymous, whether through the email or through the phone call that you make, please know that we will respect and honor that as well. Maria, I guess, one of the things, a question I have for you is, really, what are some of the struggles that you can have, kind of doing a little bit deeper with this conversation? What are some of the struggles that we can have with children during the holidays? Maybe I'm just thinking out loud, but maybe you can help me with this, is even, trying to navigate some, parents, the spending time with the day, who's on Christmas Day, who's on Christmas Eve, or, not trying to have one parent outdo the other with gifts, or the extended family doing the same. I mean, what are some of the struggles that parents during that have experienced a divorce or separation can experience during the holiday season?
Well, we all hate change, right? We like the predictability. We like this, and we don't like the disruptions of anything. We like the soothing comfort of traditions. We want the soothing comfort of family systems. We like to be a part of a team. Marriage gives us a part of a team, gives us an intimacy with a spouse that we can look at our children, enjoy the holidays with our children, and all of a sudden, Christmas and Thanksgiving and New Year's, the children become the part of it. They become the expression of this, and it comes a new meaning. And so when there's disruptions in a separation or divorce, in which there are not one household, but two, and now we have to have some kind of disruption, which means both kids won't be with both parents unless it's a very amicable, divorce separation. Now we are at loss of what to do, and we sort of have to try to bargain. Sometimes we fight. Sometimes we try to claim territory as far as dates and times and who's going to have Christmas Eve because Christmas Day, and then the children are sort of innocent bystanders, and they sit back and say, "No, wait a second. Why is mom and dad fighting? Right. Didn't we grow up knowing that we shouldn't fight? Weren't we told with our sister or our brother to stop fighting and to negotiate and compromise? Why can't our parents do that? We just want to be with both parents." So it becomes very, very difficult. And then you end up as parents feeling a little bit, feel like you can't do anything right. You resort to the legal system. You resort to family members. So like Christina said, that intimacy, that bond of a spouse, and the teamwork of that spouse with the family system to provide for the children, now there's a big shift. And the shift is, what do we do? How do we go forward? So, connectivity is connections with, with each other, with family, which deals with intimacy, and that makes reassurance. The kids need reassurance. We as individuals, parents, want reassurance that we can continue on traditions. And what we have to do, it's almost like when you are married or in a family unit, you have an instant plug-in, right? Like the computer, there's a plug-in, all right, that the current, there's a constant electrical current coming in. Even though people come to work, come back and forth, it's plugged in. the family will come back. So now the question is, how do we continue being plugged in and have our kids feel they're plugged in to this love that we want them to feel and to the holidays we want them to feel? How do we shift that? How do we make that continue on in two separate households? So that's the challenge.
And I guess I see a difficulty around holidays too. And I've been working with couples previously where finances have been divided in some ways unjustly, right? And so then it becomes very hard for one parent or the other to provide, gifts in ways that they would like to. And children have had a hard time understanding that. And parents have had a hard time not selling out the other parent. Well, this is why I can't, get you this because such and such happened. And, the other parent has everything, right? And then there's a jealousy that I see sort of surfacing and an anger. And that's oftentimes what I sort of see play out. And I kind of love to hear both of your thoughts on whether, that experience, how do you navigate that? How do you navigate the jealousy and the unjust ways that things evolve in ways that do impact the children without being able to really even explain it? And maybe Christina, I'll let you start off with that.
Yeah, I think I'm thinking of that power dynamic, and also even just if a gift is permissible, right? Like the child is going to play with it, and I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the alarm bells ringing and going off, and suddenly now you have a toy in your home that maybe you didn't give permission to, also. So even if take out the competition, and you still have to have a very frank conversation around gifts, and maybe that conversation isn't open. I think it's a very delicate balance of, because we know that gift giving is a love language. People want to express themselves. This can also be kind of swung in the far direction. Gifts don't make up for time that isn't quality time with your kids. But certainly, there's all of those dynamics at play whenever we're, thinking about not only giving gifts this season, but also receiving them.
Oh, that's huge too, how the values then shift in different homes. And now there are different values being promoted, parented, allowed, and then the crossover into your household becomes an infiltration of something you maybe wouldn't have been okay with, and Maria, how do you handle that? What are your thoughts on that sort of values differential that plays out often over the holidays?
Well, I didn't really pay attention, or purposely didn't pay attention to what my ex would be doing or not doing. I centered on myself, because I had 3 young children, as to what I was going to do with these 3 beautiful souls, all right, to make them feel that the holidays were meaningful. And I had to shift my expectations for myself, right? Because we have high expectations anyhow. And then somehow when you get divorced, you feel you got to compensate now, right? Because we got divorced, so they don't have 2 parents. So now I got to do more to compensate for that loss, And I decided to stop that because I couldn't fight against that, because economically I had not a job. The first couple of years I was really struggling from job to job. Like I said before, I changed 6 jobs in 7 years. There was a reason for that. There wasn't enough money. So what I did is that I reached out and asked my priest if there were families that he knew in the parish or outside the parish that could use some assistance and some gifts or some Christmas cheer. And he gave me an organization, I can't remember what, in which there was some families in which had a list of gifts, and we were able, as a family, my kids and I, able to buy those gifts for those children and actually deliver it to their doorstep. And we were actually invited in as well. And we did that for 3 years. And I did whatever I could, like, mittens or things or wreaths. I remember getting a wreath for someone. And she and her family of 2 had just separated. And I enjoyed seeing my children giving something to a family who had nothing, and seeing this woman just say, "Oh, this is the most beautiful wreath I've ever seen," and seeing the prior year, of kids putting the gloves on their fingers and feeling the material and their hats. And then one little girl said, they're matching. Mommy, they're matching, meaning that the hat she had didn't match. So
And was that a new value? Was that a new tradition that you began after the divorce?
Yes, because Dr. Roxanne, prior to that I would have Christmas in my, at home, right? And then there was extended family of my ex's family who came from out of town, came into town, and we had, the gifts open. So now it was like, he had Christmas Eve, I had Christmas Day, and I wanted also to make it more meaningful because all those people wouldn't be coming. It would be a smaller unit, probably myself and my parents, all right, and maybe a godparent. And it wasn't like an expansion of people and anticipation of a lot of people. And I knew that I wanted to distill it to what will be our new tradition. How are we going to make this an experience that's new? Yes, we want to keep the old tradition of Christmas and the Christmas tree and the dinner, whoever comes, but I want to create new traditions, something that the kids could remember and also take part of as far as Christ. Why did Christ come to this world? What is his gift? And how can we give back to people that we love? And so I took a pretty drastic approach because I felt that would be new and different. And also we did a lot of meaningful gifts. Like we baked things for people. We did have like cookies, and we made bakers because I couldn't necessarily afford, more than that at that time. Little poems they wrote or little pictures they made. Or
I love that. I love that Maria. I love that idea. I think that's probably going to give someone who's tuning in tonight an opportunity, even just a way that they can make a difference. I love that because whether you're married or experienced a divorce or separation, what a powerful way to teach our children about really God's family and how we are to treat everyone with love and kindness, especially at the holiday season, especially, what better way to do that? I love that. I do want to remind our listeners, you were listening to Live with the Louhs. We're talking about this topic of how do we navigate through the holidays when we've experienced a divorce or a separation. And so I invite you, if you've experienced that, or you just have a question about a family member who is going through that, or a comment, feel free to call us. You can totally be anonymous. That number is 1-855-237-2346. Again, that's 1-855-237-2346. Or feel free to email us a question at ask@ancientfaith.com. That's ask@ancientfaith.com. Christina, we got this email question right before we went on the air tonight. And the emailer sent this. She said, I'm struggling with 2.5 years post my husband's affair and our separation. My hope is that I can celebrate the holidays with all the new blessings in my life, but I find myself still struggling with the memories of past Christmases and their own joy in my heart. Is this healthy to be thinking this way? Christina, help our listener out with this.
I think it's very natural to feel that way. And we really need to honor those feelings of those beautiful memories of past Christmases and holidays, Thanksgiving, whatever it is that you're celebrating. But that we sort of tend to look back with golden rose-tinted glasses, and that doesn't change the memory. That doesn't change the validity or just the beauty of what was. But I would ask this listener just to really reflect on, and they can answer better than I can, am I over-idealizing the past? Am I robbing myself of the present moment because I'm lost in this reverie of past memory? And really bringing forward what we need to celebrate. What it sounds like there's some strides made. There's things that this individual really wants to be joyous about. Give yourself grace. Give yourself permission to feel joy. I think that's a really very serious hurdle after divorce, because the feeling of failure is so great that I don't deserve to feel this joy again. Will I ever feel that way again? And I just would really reflect on what about those memories very specifically, get into the details about it. Are you missing? Are you missing the individual? Is it wrapped up in that person, or is it the connection, the closeness, the togetherness that made you full of joy and love? And was it, I like to, I was sharing this with this idea that we can name our these small intimacies that we're really missing, and we can be very specific about them. So, if it's just the crease of a smile on someone's face, or the joy of someone's, when you give them the gift that they needed for like months, and you finally see them have it, and it's like this very small intimacy of connection, but to name those things that we really miss, and still pursue those things, even if you can't do that with the individual that is no longer in your and have chosen not to be in your life.
Christina, help our listeners understand, how therapeutic is that to do? To write down those intimacies, write down those things that just that sometimes you just.
I'm like holding my journal. I did this actually recently as an exercise, and I highly recommend what about those? They're unquantifiable little moments. They are so small, and still I think can bring us the greatest joy. And so, and I love personally like this exercise. If you have a gratitude journal, or if you've sought out moments of gratitude, I think this is an extension of that, and being even more detailed. And what about that? You see someone exchange a glance, and you suddenly there's so much meaning exchanged, and then it's gone in an instant. That is a very small and incredible thing.
I just love the specificity of what you're sharing, because I would agree wholeheartedly with the fact that we do have a tendency to over-idealize our past experiences, our past relationships, whether it's a divorce, or even in situations where we just think of the holidays and we put there's so much pressure on it of what it is supposed to be and what we believe it was. And sometimes when I ask people to actually go through and tell me, well, what was the holiday actually like? They're like, there was fighting, we were bickering, the kids were mad that morning, nobody liked the food, in-law issues. There's all sorts of dynamics that were like actually quite unpleasant. And yet when they sort of like dreading their current holiday in relation to what they thought was their last holiday, and then they actually like looked at their last holiday, they're like, oh, well, maybe this is sort of a bit more peaceful, and I do think we don't always look at the specificity of things, and we can easily get caught up in believing something is way better, than it actually was. And when we look at those specifics, we can begin to start dreaming about how to recreate some of that in different dimensions. So I love that. And what a beautiful exercise to share with our listeners.
Thank you.
Before we're going to take a quick break, but before I do want you all to know that we'd love to hear from you. You can call us at 1-855-237-2346. That's 1-855-237-2346. Or email us a question at ask@ancientfaith.com. That's ask@ancientfaith.com. We're going to take a quick break. On the other side of this break, we're going to ask Maria about how do we establish these new boundaries, because we're dealing with this new reality, and how do we create those kind of boundaries, especially when we're experiencing a divorce or separation. especially as it can be manifested during the holiday season. So stay right with us. We'll be right back.
Live with the Louhs with Father Nick and Dr. Roxanne will be back in a moment. Give them a call at 855-237-2346. That's 855-AF-RADIO. They would love to hear from you.
Are you struggling in your walk with Christ? Do you want to rediscover your reason for living, the person you were created to be? Renewing You, a priest, a psychologist, and a plan gives you the keys to unlock areas of your life that hold you back from fully experiencing the renewal and transformation God has in mind for you. Co-authored by a priest and a psychologist, Father Nicholas and Dr. Roxanne Lowe, Renewing You combines principles of spiritual growth with psychological tools to help you become your best self, fully connected with God's purpose for you. To purchase this book, please go to store.ancientfaith.com. That's store.ancientfaith.com.
We're back with Live with the Louhs and Father Nick and Dr. Roxanne. Do you have a question for the Louhs? Call in now at 855-237-2346. That's 855-AF-RADIO. Here once again is Father Nick and Dr. Roxanne.
Well, welcome back, everyone, to Live with the Louhs. So grateful that you're joining us this evening on this Tuesday, November 14th, 2023. We do invite you to call us if you have a question or comment. We're dealing with this topic of how to navigate through the holidays when we're experiencing a divorce or are divorced or are separated. It's a difficult and delicate topic, and we want to dedicate a show specifically to that. We'd love to hear from you. You can call us at 1-855-237-2346. That's 1-855-237-2346. Or feel free to email us a question at ask@ancientfaith.com. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, do not worry, you can totally be anonymous. We will honor and respect that, of course. So, Maria, I think for most people, it's difficult to even establish boundaries, even in just in our own personal life, in a family. But how much more is that magnified at the holidays, especially for people that are kind of experiencing, maybe this is their first Christmas or first holiday season that they've experienced a divorce or separation, and how do they establish those boundaries? What would you suggest for those listeners?
Well, it could be, if it's an amicable divorce, that's a whole different thing. If it's a contested, conflicted divorce, it can be a territorial grab. From what I hear from my participants in Divorce Rebuilders Group, which is going on right now, and the point that they think the first Christmas, everybody's going to make their territory, grab what they can, because that's going to be what is going to be in the future, despite what the legal divorce document says. It's a testing of it. And in our last conversation yesterday, we had a Divorce Rebuilders Group at St. Peter and Paul at Glenview, Illinois. And, the ongoing of every year, one of the exes wanting more time, or the kids are busy, or they have plans, or they're sick when it's the other person's time to see that their children, or taking them to court to pay less alimony or child support, or for ask for more. So even though the divorce decree is done and completed, it's like every year there's a grab. How much can we grab? A little more territory, a little more territory. So the actual experience of people who are divorced, and not everyone, thank goodness, can be scary in the fact that, what am I going to face this year? Is a parental agreement going to be what it is, followed, or will there be a test of it, and then I'll have to give in? So what I say is that you have to stay firm on the truth of what the divorce agreement is what you believe is correct. Stand by your children in prayer. You want to tell your children, I want to be able to have you as much time as possible, but I know that your father, your mother wants to have that time as well. We're going to negotiate the best we can. Obviously, when they're young, they go where the parents say they should go. When they get older in high school, usually that's a time in which they can say, I'll spend some time with grandmother or my dad, and then I'll come to you. They can sort of negotiate how much time they want back and forth. But at the beginning, when they're younger, usually they look at the parents. So the parents are the crux of it. So I say that, do you have to take a deep breath? If you have to have Christmas 7 a.m. in the morning to 10 a.m. in the morning, and that's your time, take that time. Okay? And if the kids have to go at 12 o'clock later on, don't be in grief. Don't be on the phone yelling. Don't have the kids see you distressed. Make sure the kids see you as calm as possible. Say, be truthful though. This was not my plan for Christmas. However, it looks like, your father, your mother sees it differently. I'm sorry, I had these plans and hopes, expectations. However, I don't want to, destroy the Christmas spirit, or I don't want to make, and then deal with it later on, legally or otherwise.
Sure. I mean, do you guys still think the idea of, hey, let's get your dad a gift, or hey, let's get your mom a gift? I mean, is it appropriate to encourage the kids to get something for their other parent post-divorce?
I say absolutely. There's no reason why you shouldn't. You don't have to buy it. You can make an album of memories. You can make a card with poem. You can make some cookies or bake some cookies for dad or for mom. You can do an activity that perhaps they couldn't participate in. Maybe perhaps they went to the zoo or had a funny moment. Take a capture that, put it in the frame and give it to. Because I think what we want to do, no matter what the conflict is between, or hopefully there's no conflict, we want to do whatever we can to soften the heart of the other spouse,
Right.
or continue to show cooperation. Despite what's coming at you, say, I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to show love and cooperation.
Right.
I'm going to show, unless my kids are endangered or I feel for their safety and well-being, that's a entirely different thing, right? But I'm not going to be part of this bitterness. I'm not going to be part of this hostility. I'm not going to show in front of my kids. I'm not going to name call the ex in front of my kids. And I'm going to keep as tranquil as an environment I possibly can and show love, because that's what Christ would want us to do.
That feels like it really does take the burden off the kids to sort of align, right? I do feel a lot of kids, if I speak to adolescents in divorce, this is the thing, like, do I even tell my mom that I'm getting dad a gift, or can I ask my dad to take me shopping to go get something for mom? And they start to overthink this, and to have this question, and it feels like an alliance shift for them a lot of times. And so I love what you're sharing, that again, trying to represent Christ in that situation of what is in the best interest here of the system that is in place for our children. And they're absorbing that burden, unconsciously, whether we say it or not. And I would have to say, I often see a real stress when kids are above the age of 18 as well. And I'm not sure if you guys, are seeing this in the divorce groups, but, after that point, kids choose who they want to go spend the holidays with. And I've seen one parent completely isolated and alone because a child over the age of 18 didn't have to follow any more of a divorce decree. And what is your role at that point as the other spouse, who the kid is saying, hey, I'm just not going to go. What do we do? I mean, this is difficult.
I think that you have to continually to emote love, emote how much you care about your child, how much you're praying, how much the memories are. Send them pictures when they were younger, in the last year, how did you miss them? Just loving despite them. Don't make them feel, or shame them, feeling guilty because they chose another spouse and not you, make them feel that no matter where, I miss you, I long for you, I miss your smile, I love to hear your voice, I can't wait till we see each other again. I hope you have a good time with your father, your mother, wherever you are, and I can't wait, and I'm counting the minutes till I see you again, or till I hear from you again. And just your voice is like bells in my ears. Just seeing you, imagining you and how you're growing, and the exciting things you're doing. And thank you for sending me that text. And thank you for letting me know what's going. Reinforce. Don't say you have not done more. You didn't write me. You didn't see me. Validate what little things already have done, so they know that there's unconditional love, that this is not like a fight between which parent wins. It's a win-win situation.
And I would imagine
parent loves.
And I would imagine to speak with that level of positivity, there's got to be an incredible amount of self-care going on where we are truly taking care of ourselves. Because without that, I don't know how to emit that level of positivity. Christina, what are your thoughts on the importance of taking care of ourselves in these tough moments?
You read my mind. I was just thinking, Hope isn't here, but her contribution would be that there are certain seasons in our life that require more self-care, and giving yourself permission to step into that place of, I need this. I need time to myself. I need to process this. I need to sit in the discomfort of, maybe it's a grudge, maybe it's anger, maybe it's frustration, you're still grieving. And that pain is not to be sideswiped by the busyness of going shopping or whatever other errand is needed, We really need to be able to sit in that type of pain. It's the only way the positivity comes out of it. In my own personal experience, I don't have children, but I know when the pain shows up, I really trust that my compassion will show up too. And sometimes it takes a little bit of time, but it does. And so I think just really giving yourself grace in this time is to me, the definition of self-care, not just a superficial face mask or bathtub party, whatever.
Christina, Christina, building on what you were just sharing, I mean, for our listeners who may not be experiencing a divorce or may not be experiencing separation, what is one thing that people may not realize that divorcees and those who are separated, can you kind of walk us into what that experience looks like at the holidays?
Yeah, our last conversation was about loneliness, and I think this certainly is magnified during the holidays, and it's hard to admit. Maria and I were speaking of this, I don't want to be alone for the holidays, and kind of putting yourself out there. Adopt me was our phrase of, this time of year is really hard for me. Can you, I don't have to be by for dinner, but can you welcome me for dessert? I'll bring something myself.
I love that.
Yeah, it's just the open invitation, I think, is really underestimated, I think, in this scenario, because we all have our enclave, our kin, and to extend that, to recognize the individual who is single, who is divorced, who may not have that extended network of people, that they are still longing for that closeness and togetherness. And it can be really difficult to admit, and it's actually really crucial that we do admit that personally, but then also recognize the individuals who.
I love that.
I mean, really the importance of, I hear you saying, having a plan of connection in some way that you can depend on and look forward to, sort of contains some of the anticipation of isolation. And I know in just working with people who've been divorced, I mean, the question is, how am I going to spend my holiday? That's always and there's tears in anticipation of that day, even though it's quote unquote just a day, but really it represents so much that people are tearful months before thinking of the holidays. and the importance of having that plan and the importance of looking around at people in our community. I think, okay, who is alone on the holidays?
Right.
What is their plan? Do they have a plan? And I love the word adopt me. I think that is beautiful to think about, because who wouldn't want to open their arms if they knew? And so I love that you are also willing to put words on asking too, even if it's just for dessert, because of course people are going to say, come for the whole day. But it's beautiful to ask and to put yourself out there in that way, and for us to be looking around as well. And Maria, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would have my small Christmas dinner, right, with my smaller family unit. Of course, is an important family unit, but not what we had before. So there was a change. And then after dinner, most people go home, right? And so I remember when I was growing up, my father's name was Chris, so it was his name's day. And so we would have a dinner, and then my uncles, and cousins would come after dinner just for dessert. And my mother would have a spread of all sorts of Greek pastries for them to partake. And I'm going, okay, why aren't I doing that now? So after my dinner was over at 4:00, I, like you said, Dr. Roxanne, plan ahead. I had told 5-6 people, if you're not doing anything, I will be free after 5:00. Stop by the house. So I would have eggnog, and we would sit and talk about the day, and we played a game together, and we had dessert, and that extended the day. And they were happy because they had someplace to go. And I was happy because the house was beautiful. I had spent hours and hours decorating. I wanted more people to see just not only my own family. So that worked out well. Yeah.
You're listening to Live with the Louhs. We are speaking with Maria and Christina. We're talking about when you've experienced a divorce or separation, how do you navigate, especially during the holidays? Such a time that, for many of us, we say it's the most wonderful time of the year, but for many people, this could be one of the darkest times of the year, a very difficult time of the year. So we welcome you to call us if you have a question or a comment for Maria or Christina. Call us at 1-855-237-2346. That's 1-855-237-2346. Or feel free to email us a question during the live broadcast of this show to ask. That's ASK at ancientfaith.com. That's ask at ancientfaith.com. As I'm kind of coming towards the end of our show, Maria, I do want to ask you, and you kind of highlighted this a little bit earlier, or at least alluded to it. How do we create new traditions? If you've got a couple, if you've got a single mom or single dad who this is their first Christmas separated or divorced. I mean, how do they create some of those traditions? I loved what you had mentioned earlier, but maybe just kind of help them walk them through creating some traditions some new traditions that can really help and bring comfort to everyone.
Well, I asked some people about some traditions that my current participants in Divorce Rebuilders are engaged in, and try new and different activities, during the holiday season. Learn to play guitar, exercise, take the kids with you. Instead of putting all the focus on Christmas, have your simple Christmas, whether you're sharing it with your ex or not, and then plan something for the kids or your family after Christmas. We're going to go for a short trip. We're going skiing for 2 days. We're going to go visit grandma and visit her because she's alone. Volunteer to help others. Soup kitchens, that can be done during the Christmas season or the Thanksgiving season. Help people in the parish who need to have their house cleaned, or snow plowing. Caroling. Start new traditions so not everything is that day. It could be before, it could be after. Take a small trip. It doesn't be an expensive trip, so the kids and you have something to forward to, that everything begins and ends in a 24-hour period of time. And also, don't neglect to grow your spirituality and your faith. I think, yes, it's not Easter, so we don't have all the services we have leading up to, but certainly go to church, certainly pray, connect with friends, consider, gratefulness is the biggest way to combat the challenges that you're facing in the present or the future. And we can get frustrated, of course, if you're divorced, because things are not the way we thought would be. But St. Paisios said, do not look upon your frustrations, lest you deem worthless the many gifts the Lord has given you. So to me, that meant a lot. And then when I
Right.
read your inspirational message about that every day God blesses us with 86,400 gifts, which is the number of seconds in a day. And he blesses us with the gift of time, the gift of family, the gift of being able to read, write, and see new day. Yet, unfortunately, our minds tend to draw on the negative more than the positive. Let's stay in the Christmas mindset of gratefulness and grateful that Christ came and revolutionized not only our world, but our lives. And then the other thing is that really hit home with me and does home with me when I get really sunk and I get down about things not going the way I would like to, is that I fix my eyes on God the Father, not on the uncertainties of this world. So of course, when you're divorced, you're uncertain what's going to happen now during Christmas and the future, as far as things are going to go with children, with your finances, with your ex, et cetera, et cetera. And it's reminded me that when the disciples were in the boat and there was that torment and that the storm coming in and they were sinking and Christ appeared to them, and then St. Peter starts walking, right? And he starts walking on the water. As long as he had his eyes fixed on the Lord, he was walking on the water. As soon as he looked down to see the turbulence underneath, he took his eyes off of Christ, he started sinking. And to me, that means that if I go off and I get in my bad place or my depression or my anxiety, I say, are my eyes fixed on Christ? Is that why I'm sinking in thought and sinking in negativity? And so those two things sort of help me stay focused and stay steady during these times.
I love that. I love that. I can't help but think, in the last moments of our show, just how those traditions, can be so beneficial to people that are just tuning in and experiencing divorce and this separation during the holiday season. I guess one of the things I'd love to kind of just follow up with you both on, and maybe we'll start with Christina here, is you see so many especially during the holiday season. I remember when I was single. I mean, there's something romantic about the holiday season, that where and again, this is prior to my ordination and to the priesthood, and obviously before marrying Roxanne. But there's something romantic about the holidays. People want to be with that someone special. It's kind of sad because Christmas is becoming more of a Valentine's holiday, or at least a holiday that where you're with that someone special. And you look at all these Hallmark channel, and you see just movie after movie about this, this kind of glorified romance that. But I mean, in all seriousness, I mean, I know that how do you navigate that? We talked about this in a show that we did in September on loneliness, but especially at the holidays, I would imagine that it's a lot worse. I mean, that or at least the feelings of feeling lonely
More pronounced.
are much more pronounced than they would be throughout the year. Maybe Christina, you could talk about that. How do you kind of navigate through that?
Yeah, I'm thinking of that warm glow of candlelight, and you're looking around the table, and everyone is partnered off, and here you are alone during the holidays. And it's actually really a brutal feeling to sit in that space and that discomfort. And if you dwell in that space, right? Because I think our grief is really important to our healing. But if we really are too far into that, or we're not appropriately grieving and suddenly just lost in that despair and loneliness, it can speak to us in really negative terms. It's you're always going to be alone, you're unlovable. These are really detrimental thoughts that sort of cycle around loneliness. And I'd be lying if I didn't say that I have borrowed from the faith of others around me whenever I felt really low. And in the times where I've had to summon that joy or summon that, even the connection that I'm get out of my own head, right? I want to share, I've prayed for it, and I want to share this, that we are really examining our spiritual state during this time of year. And especially, this was from Father Tom Sakalakis, that if we are not, here, let me find, and he's quoting St. John of Chrysostom, that you've got to get out of your head and into your heart. Mm-hmm. Right now, your thoughts are in your head, and God seems to be outside you. Your prayer and all your spiritual exercises also remain exterior. As long as you are in your head, you will never master your thoughts, which continue to whirl around your head like snow in a winter storm. And the times that I have really called myself back to myself, it is through prayer and the Jesus prayer, but it's also through gratitude that I am closer to my heart than my head. It's certainly, that has definitely been a very important tool as I ground myself into the present moment. And I'm here now. I fear no thing because God is with me, but also that I'm very comforted. You have to catch yourself in that preoccupation of your own thoughts too, especially if it's depriving those around you of your company, of your presence.
I think that is so wise. Yeah. It recognizing we all have that tendency to live in our head, and it does terrible things to our soul, and we can't reset it. And it's just that simple recognition of it. And I will literally use those words with clients. It's like to get out of your head, and get into a moment with anyone, anything like that gets you out of your headspace, because somehow when you come back to that same headspace, it just feels different, when you've connected to something else, and perspectives return in ways that just feel more freeing and more still. And it's as if you've sort of borrowed God's vantage point, and so I love, the idea of connection, just to get out of ourselves. And it could be about anything. Doesn't even have to be about our own lives. It could be about pumpkin pie and cupcakes and new recipes. So thank you to both of you for those beautiful nuggets of wisdom. You've shared so many.
I think that's I know this is so helpful for me as a priest just to hear this. And I know having your vulnerability and your wisdom, as we talked about in previous shows, I think is so helpful. And I know I look forward to having you both, along with Hope, on future shows. But just wanted you to know how grateful we are for you just coming and being so transparent with us. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you both.
So in the final few moments of our show, I do want to just encourage you on a couple of things. Friends, many of us are watching on the news, and we're seeing the continual sadness, not only, domestically. We see school shootings, we see division that's taking place even in the political world. We not only see that, but we see what's going on overseas, especially in the Middle East and in Ukraine. And I know that, the holiday season is a beautiful time of the year, and I think we should honor it. But let's remember really what this is about. Like the Prince of Peace was born in a manger. He was born in a dirty little cave. And I think in many ways he came in the messiness of a world 2,000 years ago. And I think one of the things that we have to ask ourselves is what are we being the vessels of that peace in a really messy world that we're living in right now? And so my encouragement for you is tonight before you go to bed is really, if you're only able to, but get on your knees and pray. Just pray that the Prince of Peace, pray that there could be peace in this world. We're seeing so much sadness. I just was reading recently that almost 70% of the people who have lost their lives in the Gaza war, in Israeli war, are women and children. And we're talking not just about a couple of hundred, we're talking about thousands and thousands of people. We look at what's taking place in Ukraine and Russia, and it just my heart is heavy. And so I want us all to be praying for that peace. I think second of all is that we need to do all that we can so that we can understand what's really happening. This is bigger than just what we may think or what we may get on a soundbite on television or in the news. This is a big deal, and it's impacting us and probably will be impacting our world, I think, for the next months and perhaps years. So educate yourself about really what's going on from both perspectives, whatever that perspective may be, whatever side you may find yourself with. And then finally, I would say do all that you can to bring about peace in this world, whether it be in your interactions that you have at the holiday season, as Maria was saying so beautifully earlier. I mean, just being the person who takes the higher ground, that always doesn't look for conflict, but looks to be the way Christ would want us to be acting in these situations. But do that in everything that we do, not just in our communications at holiday season, but in our emails, our text messages, how we communicate at work. Be the Prince of Peace that God is wanting us all to be in this world. That's my prayer for all of us as we're entering this holiday season. Next Tuesday, we won't have a show. We'll be taking a Tuesday off. We're going to be out of town for a couple of days, but we will resume in 2 weeks from today. So we look forward to having all of you there with us. Please feel free to share these shows. As I mentioned earlier, all of our podcasts, sermons, and views are all on our YouTube channel. So definitely take a moment to go and subscribe to the Louhs YouTube channel. Thanks to Matushka Trudy for producing tonight's show. She does an amazing job. And to all of you that joined us tonight, God bless you, everyone, and stay strong in your walk of faith.
Father Nick and Dr. Roxanne are the authors of the book Renewing You, a priest, a psychologist, and a plan, which can be purchased at store.ancientfaith.com. Their daily inspirational messages can be found at thelouhs.com/subscribe. Be sure also to search for The Louhs on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Live with The Louhs is a listener-supported presentation of Ancient Faith Radio.